Hello everyone and welcome back to the Deep Learning Crowd podcast. For episode 4, we are joined by my next guest, Ritesh Kanjee, influencer, educator, CEO and founder of Augmented Startups. Ritesh is a computer vision expert and over the past few years has amassed nearly 100,000 subscribers on YouTube thanks to his ability to train, teach and share computer vision and AI content. Today we'll be discussing some interesting topics around computer vision and technologies like YOLO, as well as different facets of computer vision, such as object tracking and detection. We'll also dive into some popular subjects like deepfakes, breaking down the good and the bad we are facing with this. Ritesh has created courses and tutorials around AI and has built a huge network of students. So today we'll find out why he decided to head down this unique route and build a teaching empire. I love this episode, so sit back, relax, enjoy the show. It's good to have you amongst the crowd.
Thanks, Reese. I really appreciate being on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking the time. So look, I want to just dive straight into it. I want to find out about you, Ritesh, and find out what you've been doing over these all your years of experience you have so far. So who are you and what do you do?
So, like you mentioned, I'm Ritesh Kanjee from the company Augmented Startups, and essentially I teach computer vision, AI, and drone robotics to students all around the world.
Simple as that. Okay, and you didn't get to the position you're in now without probably a lot of experience working in a job. So what's your background? Like, how have you got to where you are now?
So my background is in electronic engineering. It's almost like far away from computer vision and AI, but not that far, right? So I worked for about a year in PCB design, and then my contract didn't get renewed. There was a conflict between me and my boss, it's very controversial. But beyond that, I decided to do my master's after that, and I wasn't sure what topic to do. So I majored in both computer vision and control systems. I didn't know which route I was going to go into, but I said, okay, let me do both and we can see where the road would take me. And then from there, I decided to let me overcome certain challenges. And then in those challenges, I would document my journey and how I got there and that. Now, instead of recording it in a Word document like a normal person, I decided to make video tutorials for myself. So what started out as video tutorials, it turned out to be something that there was a lot of value behind those tutorials, because it wasn't just me that would require these tutorials in the future. So I started out with these video tutorials, and then I just stored it on my hard drive, hoping that it wouldn't get lost. Then I realized that there's a lot of data breaches and hard drives that get corrupted very easily and stuff like that. And then from there, I was like, okay, no, I need to load this up somewhere in safe and secure, either for me to access in a later date, like many years down the line, or for maybe someone else. So YouTube was the best option. Since then, I've been uploading videos. I saw people were starting to watch my videos, and I'm like, wow, people actually want these kinds of tutorials. So what started out as 1 view turned into 10 views, turned into 100, and then now I have approximately 7.2 million views currently as of this podcast, which is quite phenomenal.
Let's put it into context. So you actually have how many subscribers on YouTube now?
There's around 92,000 subscribers, trying to inch my way to 100,000. It's just a bit challenging, especially with the YouTube algorithm changing every day or every month. So it's hard to keep up with these things, but getting there.
Yeah, but look, what you've done so far is incredible, and we'll definitely dive into the YouTube scene shortly down the line in this podcast. But let's just, so I've got an understanding. So how many years of experience have you got working in the computer vision field now?
Total working experience is about 9 to 10 years. Sometimes you lose track as the years go by, but say around 6 years of computer vision experience. And that's mostly in the fields of like object detection, AI, a little bit of augmented reality in that. And yeah, that's about it.
Yep. Okay. And just we will also dive into this a little bit towards the end, but tell me a bit about Augmented Startups. What are you doing there and what's your role?
So besides the admin role of managing the business itself, it's mostly teaching people computer vision, AI, and being innovative in the space. So I noticed like a lot of people, when they come out of university, there's a certain gap between what they learn in university and what they require in the job space. And I tend to fill that gap or that void so that people can get jobs easily because they have the skills, their knowledge is up to date, and when they present it to the employee or their clients, they at least know what they're talking about. One of the goals of doing this is to be a little bit innovative in the space, to see what other people are doing and then see how I can either do it better or innovate on it, do it differently, and essentially solve problems with computer vision.
And just to confirm, at this present time, computer vision is your number one focus within this Augmented Startup company, right?
Yeah, it's the number one focus, but I do branch out into other areas like augmented reality and also drones.
So let's talk about computer vision. So I'm sure a lot of the listeners will know what it is, or have seen it, or even used some form of computer vision in applications or something like that. But in your words, what is computer vision?
The best way to describe it is creating the intelligence behind the camera. So if you can imagine sort of like a surveillance monitoring system, and then you've got that person behind the desk with all the monitors everywhere, and now he has to decide what's happening in the scenes. If there's maybe an intruder, he'll flag it and say, oh, there's an intruder over here, and then take action on it. So essentially we want to replace, not replace all humans with computer vision for this respect, but just the human element in that, so that we automate certain things. So maybe we want to do detection, find out who's around objects of interest or areas of interest that we need to figure out and take action on those immediately.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how much of the history you know of computer vision, but I'm sure you know a fair amount. How long has computer vision been around?
Probably a couple of decades, or many decades. I would say that it's half as old as the history of the camera, but I would be wrong in saying that. I don't have the exact date for you, but it mostly happened during the computer revolution, where people were using computers to automate certain tasks, and people were looking to see how can we use computer vision to automate certain tasks.
But from what I see as an outsider perspective, it's really starting to be implemented in day-to-day stuff now. A lot more, obviously, autonomous driving. You get these mobile applications where computer vision. So it's more happening in our eyes now more than ever, right?
Exactly. People don't realize it, but they also use it in their phones. For like Snapchat filters, augmented reality, like you mentioned, and also surveillance monitoring, traffic surveillance, and also sports analytics as well.
Yeah. And how far do you think we've come over the last few years, maybe since you've been in the industry, and how do you see computer vision advancing as well?
I think we've came a long way from the first few examples of hot dog, no hot dog, just classifying that versus classifying a whole variety of things. There's a lot of advancements in terms of accuracy, speed, able to detect more classes, objects that are big and small within the image, which are of the same class. And also unifying it for augmented reality. There's a lot of facets or areas of computer vision, not just object detection and classification, but also like deep fakes, GANs, and there's a lot more, but also pose estimation and image segmentation.
Mm-hmm. And deep learning is played a huge role in computer vision, of comparing it to like the classical computer vision. Would you say? So how much have we benefited from the use of deep learning and this application?
Quite a bit. I won't lie. Like things started taking off in computer vision quite a lot, because before we as humans used to create the models that the computer vision algorithms had to process along the way. So if I wanted to do face detection, I had to create manually a model for the nose, a model for the ears, model for the face, and for the mouth region, and that. Now all of that is sort of automated by using deep learning. So I don't have to do all these features and then put them together to say this is a face. I can now throw in a deep learning model, just take a generic ResNet model for face detection, or even a simple Haar cascade algorithm, and then just use that for face detection. So I think deep learning has helped a lot in terms of just automating certain tasks, and all you have to do is just train the model. And then once you've got the train model, you can just plop it into your detector and just run it like that.
Yeah. So it just sounds like it's made everything more efficient. You know, you can do things without having to do things manually. Automation.
Exactly.
That's kind of what you could say.
Yeah. But the only downside of that is that if you just run a deep learning model just like that, you don't exactly know what's going on. It's sort of like a black box, which can be an issue if you want everything known. If you want to know why the AI chose this as a face or not, you need to understand why in maybe like industrial and defense applications. That's where explainable AI has come about, to try and explain what's exactly happening. But that's another area of research.
Yeah, no, of course. I've actually done a talk on explainable AI, XAI, which was pretty cool. But you mentioned the different facets of computer vision. So we've got object detection, tracking, etc. So you mentioned it earlier. So let's dive into object detection. For our listeners, what is this?
Object detection is, as it implies, is detecting objects. So the object that you can detect could be a phone, it could be a pin, or it could even be a big chunky drone like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so this was one
That's
of the
incredible.
drones. Yeah, thanks. This is one of the drones that I created using an object detection model to detect me. And then that drone would follow me around and take off and land based on the commands that I would give it. That was quite cool.
How long did it take you to build that in particular?
It took me about 3 weeks to build this. There was a kit that I got from this guy called the Drone Dojo. He had this course and everything, and then I just took what he built on and added computer vision to it, and then I was able to implement a body gesture controlled drone.
And that is the benefits of going on courses. Learning
exactly.
You're the man.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the key technologies you work with when it comes to object detection. What are you working with mainly?
The basis of it all is Python with OpenCV. OpenCV is, for those who don't know, it's an open source computer vision platform or library that you can use for generic computer vision tasks. I also use RoboFlow for the training workflow, so annotating the datasets, augmenting it, training it, and also deploying it. And then the models that I get from the dataset, I put in and train my YOLO model. So it's called, the model is called YOLO, which stands for you only look once.
Love it. And so there's quite a lot of versions. I remember you sort of explained to me, so there's some earlier versions, V1 to V5, and then they sort of made a transition to actually start promoting letters like YOLO R, YOLO X. And what's the most recent one at the moment?
YOLO R and YOLO X.
Are they different or the same? Or just like, is one better than the other? Or?
So there was an evolution through all of the iterations. So YOLO V1 to V3 was created by a guy called Joseph Redman. He did a really great job in creating YOLO, which was real time, and it was fairly accurate in terms of detecting different types of objects. When it came to YOLO V3, or the end of YOLO V3, he decided to actually quit working on YOLO, mainly because of all the controversies happening in the YOLO space. People were using it for military applications, and he wasn't happy with that. So in protest, he stopped working on it. But there were others who actually came up and took up the mantle, and there's a guy called Alexei Pachowski, and he created YOLO v4, which was actually quite popular in the past year of 2020. And the accuracy and speed of YOLO v4 was just phenomenal, in my opinion. Then we had YOLO v5, which was quite a controversial release. It wasn't by Alexei Pachowski, it was by a company called Ultralytics. They sort of released just a little bit later than YOLO v4, so they said let's call it YOLO v5. But calling it YOLO v5 actually implies that it would be better than v4. I mean, if you have a version like you wouldn't get iPhone 13 if you know that iPhone 12 was better than iPhone 13, for example. So there's a lot of controversy around that. They just decided to stick with the name and call it YOLO v5. I disagree with that naming. So after that whole controversy, what happened is people decided let's not call it v1, v2, v3 or increment the versions. Let's rather call it an alphabet. So that's where YOLO R and YOLO X were born. And recently a few more other versions were released, like YOLO S, YOLO F, amongst others also.
Yeah. So as we know, every software needs a hardware, right? Especially of this level of complexity. So tell me a bit about some of the hardwares that you use for these sort of subjects.
The main hardware that I use is an NVIDIA graphics card. The current one that I'm using is an NVIDIA 1080 Ti. You can use a variety of other GPUs, like you do get cloud GPUs in Google Colab that you can use for free in some instances for a certain amount of time. You can get on-edge hardware like the NVIDIA Jetson, that's also using NVIDIA's platform. You also get the OpenCV AI Kit. Now, the OpenCV AI Kit is essentially a camera mixed with the AI embedded into the camera, where you're able to do the inferencing of the AI models and computer vision right on the device. And then it's transmitted to a third-party host like a Raspberry Pi or an external computer or server, for example. And what I want to explore now is maybe try some computer vision with the new M1 Max, the new MacBooks that were released. So the 16-inch M1 Pro and the M1 Max, those will be quite exciting to try out. So we'll see where that takes us.
And for the listeners, listening, these are not cheap pieces of kit, though, right?
Yeah, they're quite expensive. With the exception of the NVIDIA Jetson and OpenCV AI Kit. So the OpenCV AI Kit, also known as Oak, that goes for around between say $99 to $200 more or less. Obviously, you have to get the host, which can be another $100. NVIDIA Jetson is probably about $199. So you can fairly cheaply test out certain computer vision architectures on these devices.
Cool. Now, in relation to object detection, what have been some of the biggest challenges we've faced with this way of doing things?
If you've seen the one meme, it was just getting the accuracy. There was a picture of AI taking over the world, and then everyone's going crazy about AI killing humans and stuff like that. And then meanwhile, my detector was just misclassifying a dog as a cat. So I think just getting that accuracy, and it's more about the borderline scenarios where, say, for example, if you go back to the dog and cat example, you get a dog that looks like a cat and a cat that looks like a dog. So that borderline one is where we're trying to narrow down that margin of error, trying to figure out to distinguish objects from one another. The other thing is also, if I'm close to the camera, you can detect me quite easily. But what happens if I'm like, say, 20 meters away from the camera? Can you still recognize that it's me using computer vision? And that's where you can either use a multitude of computer vision techniques, like mixing object detection with object tracking, maybe with some reinforcement learning, or recurrent neural networks, so that you're able to memorize what an object is, where it goes, and how it orientates itself in a 3D space. So those are the challenges that are still being faced, and people are trying to solve those issues.
And how have we been solving them, or how have we got on with solving them?
There's a lot of papers out there that are using object detection with tracking and LSTMs out there. They are a work in progress. The other problem that comes into place is, say, if an object comes in front of me, then you essentially lose my track in the image, and so that is known as occlusion. We're trying to figure out how to solve occlusion and also re-identification if an object goes out of an image and it comes back into the image.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about object tracking then. So this is another area that you like to talk about as well. So what's object tracking? It's quite simple, but what is it?
It's different from object detection, or in most cases, where you detect an object or say if you identify an object in an image and you want to see where that object is going in that image. So apply some sort of algorithm and see, okay, this object that's over here in frame 1 is the same object over here in frame 100, for example. So you want to monitor certain things, like say a tennis ball in a tennis match. You don't want to identify, okay, this ball is a different ball from another one, or different people. You want to monitor people or objects in the scene and track where are they going in that, so that you can get analytics on that specific object within those frames.
Cool. And what are the favorable models of object detection?
The ones that I've worked with mostly were sort and deep sort. Deep sort does decently well. Like it handles a small amount of occlusion, like we spoke about earlier, and it does re-identify when the person goes out very briefly and comes back in. So it works in those borderline cases, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. More recent models are FairMOT. So MOT stands for multiple object tracking. And a new one that I want to try out is called Byte Track. That one seems to be quite fast and accurate in terms of its tracking.
Is this very new to the market?
Byte Track is fairly new. But to me, I want to try and understand it quite soon. I've just been busy with a lot of things though.
Understandable. And what are some of the main issues that we're facing with object tracking? You know, how difficult is it, or how difficult can it be?
So as I mentioned earlier, it's mostly the re-identification part. If an object can go out of a frame long enough, right, and come back, and we are still able to identify it, that would be sort of like not the holy grail, but it would be close to that. In order to achieve that, we probably need some sort of memory of the objects that come in and the objects that go out. Right now, we're just doing detecting and just tracking those features over time. That's how object tracking is traditionally done. We just track features and match those features from one frame to the other and say, this is object 1, this is object 1, object 1, object 1. But if you can say, okay, object 1 has a yellow t-shirt and maybe jeans, for example, if it goes out, and when it comes back in, it'll like, wait, I've seen something similar before. Maybe that could be the same guy, or maybe use face recognition along with it to say, okay, this is person X or person Y. Let's assign an identity back to that person that has come back into the image. So there's a lot of tricks of the trade that you can implement to make it a bit more accurate in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So there was another area that you and I wanted to sort of go through and talk about, which was the analytics dashboard CAM. So
yeah.
Tell me a bit about this and why you wanted to talk about it.
So this was just a personal project of mine. So if you look at a lot of projects on like YouTube, you see that people just have like a simple OpenCV window, which has all of the data on the image, which doesn't look that great. It is functional, but not that user-friendly and eye candy as well. So I decided, what if you create sort of a product or an end-to-end product, a dashboard that you can either show to a client or use in a real world scenario. Like you won't want to just use an open CV window everywhere you go. It's not practical. There's no buttons or anything. You could use keyboard shortcuts, but an average Joe off the street won't know how to operate it. So I said, let's create a dashboard that you'll be able to click on it. You'll be able to view it in with very pretty graphs. The user interface is impeccable, and it gives you much more information that you need so that you can take action on those analytics that you extract from a certain computer vision algorithm or image that you've ran the algorithm on.
Is this more of just a personal project to see, how it all works, or do you feel like this actually could be used in real life applications or industries?
Definitely real world applications. Because if you want to develop a product, you would need a dashboard, whether it could be a web app, an Android app, or it could be any web dashboard that you require. If you can create a finished product or close to a finished product as possible, and if I can teach that to people, then that's a bulk of their work done for them. I mean, if they want to create an application for their particular purposes, they just need to repurpose what I've taught them, and they can just swap around the graphs, change for certain headings, and change the application essentially.
Are you enjoying this project?
Yeah, it's quite enjoyable. I like making things look very neat and tidy. Even in my OpenCV windows, when I used to work on that, I used to make like bright colors, great looking text and stuff like that. But then that wasn't enough. So I said, let's just make it into a dashboard that people can interact with, and it will be much more user friendly to the average Joe.
Are you just going for little drives every now and again to test more scenarios, or have you just done loads of recording and working off that? Or
it's mostly recordings. It's easy to work with live games. So the application that I'm working on is not focused on self-driving cars, but it's mostly for the transport traffic industry. So if you're monitoring traffic from a fixed camera, how do you monitor your traffic from there? Maybe you want to check the average speed of all the vehicles there, or the density of vehicles. If you got the density of vehicles, you can draw heat maps, and then from the heat maps you can overlay it on GPS, and you can say, okay, there's more cars in this area than this area. Let's maybe change up the robots or the traffic lights so that we can ease the traffic congestion in that area.
Nice. Now, the next subject we'd like to talk about is actually a subject that I actually wanted to talk to about as well. I find this very interesting, and I don't know too much about it. So, deep fakes. You obviously know a fair amount about deep fakes. So, just for the listeners, what is deep fakes?
So, deep fakes is a way to generate synthetic images. So, images that are fake, based on a dataset of real images. So I can train an AI to look at the real images, and then using a technology called generative adversarial networks, and that would essentially generate fake images from the real images.
I've literally seen a video of someone doing a recording and using deepfakes have put it on, I think it was Barack Obama, or it might have been Donald Trump. And it looks like and sounds like, obviously they've done some audio work as well, but it literally is the President of the United States doing a speech which he never done, and it looks perfect. That's crazy, right?
I think that there was a video by, I think his name is Peel. So he used his own voice. He tried to get as close as possible to Barack Obama's
Oh, okay.
voice. And he's an actor, so he used his voice. Maybe there was some editing or not. And then they just overlaid it with some deepfakes. That was quite scary, but also cool in terms of the technology that they were able to replicate it so closely.
So I look at that and I see it's very exciting. It's evolutionary, though. Like, this is something that we've never seen before, and there's nothing better when you visually see something like that, which can blow your mind when you know that person is not actually doing that. But there has got to be some ethical concerns, or concerns about this, and what direction this could end up going down. But what do you think are the biggest problems with deep fakes?
It's mostly impersonation. So I can get on a video call and say that I'm the president of the United States and I would like to order maybe a nuke to somewhere. That could be quite a big risk. But now I think people have become more aware of deepfakes. People are looking at ways to analyze video and to see if it's fake or not. There is some research into this area, but anyone can be fooled. Like the average Joe off the street can be like, oh, this one is talking to me. Like this is someone else. I think I'm talking to the owner of this account because they are live on video. But it's not the case.
No, of course.
Yeah, impersonation is a serious crime, and people can use deepfakes for impersonation or defaming others in certain aspects.
Yeah, so when I think of it, obviously most people can be fooled by deepfakes because of how good and advanced they are. However, obviously, like you said, the real tech guys could obviously pull it apart and see that it's fake probably quite quickly. But what the concern is probably more the fact that the average people, especially social media, if it's something's put up and it has no reference to where it's come from, and it starts getting sent around, all of a sudden you think this piece of information is real because you can only you visually see it and hear it, I guess. So I see a lot of negatives, but what are some of the positives? Is it just more, do you think we want to advance something which is really cool, or do you actually feel like we can use this in real life applications as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think people are working on it mainly because it can be used for real world good applications. For one, you can use it for creating synthetic datasets, because say if you want to create a self-driving car and it must work in maybe summer weather, and so you only collected datasets of summer weather which is in your location. But what happens if it starts snowing, for example? You can actually take your existing dataset and morph it into sort of like from a sunny dataset to a snowy environment or foggy environment dataset. So you can train your model on that, and then when it comes to those actual scenarios, it's more prepared for the scenarios rather than not having that dataset at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So look, I appreciate all the technical discussions that we've had. Well, more me asking you technical related questions and you answering. But I want to dive into as to why you're in this situation that you're in. Why are you, Ritesh, not working for a company, or why have you not founded a company which maybe offers a product or a different kind of like the standard sort of direction a normal company would go in the tech world? So why have you decided to become an influencer? Why have you decided to become a YouTube go on YouTube and do these courses? Why?
Okay, that's a great question. So when I started out, say about 9 years ago, I wanted to launch a product. I wasn't happy in my job at the time, and I didn't want to work for someone. I know a lot of people don't want to work for someone else. They rather work for themselves. So I created a product. It was a little tiny PC, or not like a PC. You can say like an Arduino, a miniature computer. I called it Button-Duino back in the days. So I tried selling that on Kickstarter, or I think it was Indiegogo, but I sold that and it failed miserably. Obviously back then I didn't know what I was doing. I was young and learning. So I realized that maybe I needed an audience to sell to, rather than expecting the audience to come to me from a third-party platform. One of the ways I could do that was maybe growing my YouTube channel. So if I grew a YouTube channel, I could get an audience, and then maybe some of the audience would become clients of mine in future. The best way I knew how to do at the time, I tried different things, like a lot of different things, in order to make money and get started in my own business. And then eventually I came to a point where the only thing that worked for me was creating online courses. So when the first course that I created was on Udemy. It was a PCB design course, and that did quite well. It's still doing quite well on Udemy. And then from there, I started putting out more and more courses, hoping it to do well. But with the Udemy algorithm, they changed quite a bit, and I was forced to move to my own platform. which will be on my own site, augmentedstartups.com. And then from there, I've been creating courses on my own platforms ever since, and I've just been enjoying it.
Yeah, I've been watching your stuff for a while, and the one thing that stands out to me is your content. I actually like to put out a lot of good content, but to be honest, a lot of mine's reshared, or I do like to dive in and do a bit of research, but your content is raw. Your content comes from you, directly from you. That's how I found you, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you're doing something different. You're not doing the same thing as what a lot of people were doing. But how was it? So obviously you was in a position where you was working for another company for a long time. You was there for like 9 years or something.
Yeah.
Now you got to the point where you probably wanted to do something different. You started doing the courses, and that sort of trickled, and it kind of trickled, like a domino effect as to where you are now. Mm-hmm. But how was it taking that leap from where you had no more income from an actual job, 9-to-5 job? How was taking that leap to doing what you're doing now?
It was actually quite a fun journey, I must say. It comes down to growing from a position of no power to being empowered. So empowering myself and to be financially free. It was quite a journey. So about, say, 5 years ago, when my YouTube channel started taking off, and then it started growing, it got to a point where I was able to be financially sustainable to a certain level. And then I was actually preparing myself for an exit from the 9-to-5. And what I did was I saved up sort of like a nest egg that would sustain me for the next 2 to 3 years on a manageable salary, like being frugal in my expenses and everything. I had to manage all of that quite carefully. And then there was a point where I went to my manager and I told him, look, I'm really enjoying my job, but I would like to do the teaching on the side because I'm quite passionate about it, and I'm learning a lot from teaching other people. And that's actually contributing to my skill level, that's contributing to my 9-to-5 job. So a lot of what I was learning in my own time was feeding into my 9-to-5 job. And then I realized, okay, after my negotiations with my boss, we settled on working only 3-day weeks. So Mondays to Wednesdays, I would work my 9-to-5 job, and then Thursdays and Fridays, I would actually enjoy working on my own business full time and just propelling that into the next stage. Then it came to a point this year, April, where I was able to take the leap. Things actually took off, especially with my YOLO V4 course. It was selling quite well, to a point where I was able to just take the leap. And I remember telling my wife, you know what, I want to quit my job. And I told my mother, I told my father. They all thought I was crazy. They said, okay, you're taking this risk. It's quite risky, and job market is quite, people can't get jobs, and what you're going to do, and how you're going to manage it. And then I told them, don't worry. I'll find a way. If it works, it works. Rather do it now while I'm young and still with no children on the way as yet. Do it now rather than later, because that energy will help me propel the business into being much more where it is now. So I took the leap. There was a little bit of a dip in the couple of months because I was working mostly on my drone project. I wasn't putting out that much videos. I was just focusing purely on the drone project. And then I noticed my income starting to dip, and I was like, damn, what am I going to do? I don't want to go back to a 9-to-5 job. Definitely. Then I was thinking, sometimes your mind wanders and like, okay, if I had to go back, where would I work? Would I go back to the same company or some other company? What would I do? But then I sat down, I spoke to my wife, I told her all of my gripes and my worries and that. And then she said, okay, let's put on the plan. Let's focus. Let's figure out what, maybe do some meditation and stuff like that. And then say within a week, I got notified of the next YOLO model, which was YOLO R at the time. And I was like, wait, if YOLO V4 did so well for me, let me jump onto the YOLO R bandwagon and see where that takes me. At the time, YOLO V4 was declining because a lot of people already had YOLO V4 videos online. So why would they take my course, which was paid, when they could take a free YOLO V4 course, which was free on YouTube? So probably the majority of the decline that was happening. And then once I focused purely for the next month or two on YOLO R, I launched it, and then it actually I pre-launched it. So that means I put out the sales page, said this is what I'm going to do, and then people actually started pre-ordering it, and it did very, very well. Like, I was astounded at how well it did, and it's still currently doing on my website. So that was a lifesaver for me. So that was really quite a journey. It was fun. It was a roller coaster.
Yeah, nice. No, wicked. It's a bit of a weird question, I guess, but do you feel like you benefited from COVID because of YouTube? Because the YouTube scene blew up at that time?
Both yes and no. During the first year of COVID, things were the economy wasn't doing well. So I'm here in South Africa, and the South African rand declined from 15 rand of, let's say, 14 rand to the US dollar to about 18 rand, bordering on 19 rand to the US dollar. So that actually helped me quite a bit in sustaining myself during the last year. But then I noticed in this year, along with the decline in sales of YOLO V4, people couldn't afford YOLO V4. It was a bit expensive. They were more focusing on themselves, health-wise and stuff like that. Maybe their funds were running out and they needed to sustain themselves. I'm not sure the exact reason, but all of that contributed to the decline in sales of YOLO V4. But as the economy started recovering, people, most of my student base is in the US and India. India experienced a great decline when they were hit by COVID quite hard. And then eventually when they started recovering, I noticed also sales started improving as well.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Let's talk about some of the courses then at Augmented Startups. Let's go into Augmented Startups as a business and the courses you can offer. So, what courses have you got live and what courses have you got coming up? And just tell me in general, like, what's happening.
So we've spoken about my YOLO V4 and YOLO R courses. So the YOLO R course is one of my best courses that I've released to date. Like, people saying that, like, this is the best iPhone that we've released. I truly believe that this is the best best YOLO course that I've released or that is currently out there. Mainly, I decided, because I'm working full-time on it, I could obviously focus all my attention on it. So what it includes is what is YOLO R, how to implement YOLO R, how to train it for your own custom applications for object detection, how to implement tracking with it, how to build a Streamlit dashboard with it. And then I just released a whole lot of applications. Like, I just went wild with all the applications, like blackjack card counting, number plate recognition, car counting, speed calculation, calculating the trajectories of different vehicles. That was quite cool. I've even created a Squid Game application using YOLO R and Deep Sort.
I think,
for that.
Did you post something? I think you posted something about that.
Yeah, I posted a demo.
Yeah, that was wicked.
Still working on a tutorial on that, so that would be quite... creating sort of like a Unity simulation of the game and to see how well computer vision stacks up with it. So that'll be quite cool. So that's the YOLO R Pro course. And then I have my upcoming YOLO X course, which is mostly focused on the same thing, but with YOLO X, but it's going to be more focused towards building an end-to-end product, building a web app dashboard using YOLO X. And this is to say, okay, let's get YOLO X in. How can we make a full product that you can take to your client, take to your employer and say, this is a full product. I've done it from scratch. You could use an online service like Azure or Visio.ai to create a dashboard. But some people do want to create these dashboards themselves. mainly because they don't want to pay an online subscription to a third-party company. Also, for privacy concerns, you don't want to host your sensitive data on a third-party server. You want to host it maybe either on edge, or you either want to host it on your own servers that's maybe isolated from other networks and stuff like that. So that's the main reasoning behind creating a dashboard.
So what can the guys who join up to this course, what can they expect? Is it tutorial videos, or like how is there any like tests or anything, or like I'm not sure, like how does it work?
So how it works is that it's a whole bunch of video tutorials bundled with some theoretical quizzes, and you can, if you want to take it, you can join the course, you can enroll in it, and you can take up the assignments. But I also give homework to the students, where I'll say, okay, I've done this with the blackjack card counting app. Maybe you can take it further by maybe counting cards using YOLO R and Deep Sort, or just applying it for different applications. So I would post that to my students, and then they'll post it in my Facebook group, and a lot of people will be able to say, hey, I like this application, maybe I can try it out myself. So it's quite nice that I have like a closely knit community that's also contributing to the work that I've built upon in these courses as well.
Yeah, so just like you've created these courses, but more importantly, you've created a community. This community can interact with you and others, or
we have a Facebook group, Discord, but I find that there's more interactivity in my WhatsApp group. That's where everyone gets their messages, and people actually are helping out other people in the group without me being the sole person who has to provide technical support. So it's a community where you not only get your help to debug the problems that you have, but also to network with other people, maybe find jobs or find clients and stuff like that. So it's a very nice community that I have going on there.
That is the power of a community. That's kind of the what I'm trying to achieve now, is more like engagement. And with my communities, I want to be able to make it so that I'm not always the guy answering, not because I don't want to, but because you want to create a community where people interact so much more.
Exactly.
And I've got groups on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and it does work, and it allows people to engage. And who knows, that with that can come anything. They could create a business because they've got the same mindset, but it's more importantly creating people like-minded and putting them all together.
Exactly.
Where you've got your specific your specific field of interest, computer vision, you have a lot of people who just want to talk about computer vision. So you've got by having that community, it allows the engagement to really flow. So what we want to do is ask the audience on your YouTube channel, put in the comments below with what you wanted to know about courses, like other things that you guys may want to hear about. So take it away. What do you want to ask your audience, Ritesh?
I would like to know what my audience's challenges are. Like, if you are experiencing challenges in computer vision, or just want to get started in computer vision, where to get started, I would like to know those challenges, so I can take what you ask me and eventually turn it into a tutorial or a series or a course that can help you get from point A to point B. That's essentially what the goal of the channel is, to solve problems, to help people to get from where they are to where they want to be.
Yeah, so make sure those listening comment below and add your input, get involved. So what's next for Ritesh? What's next for you?
The next thing is just focusing on the launch of my YOLO X course. I'm planning to get it out before Black Friday. It's a lot of work to do before Black Friday. I've got my team working with me. So besides for YOLO X, I have a lot of ambitious projects that I want to actually try out. One of them is also to spend more time working on my drone. I had to obviously move away from my drone for a little while because I needed to focus on my income of my business at the time. So focus more on drone applications, drone swarms. I was quite interested in that. There was this one application that I wanted to do where I could control a swarm of drones just using my hands and say, okay, lift up, or move them away, and then just do like sort of like a dance motion with the drones that are able to detect me. It's quite challenging doing drone swarm technology, but I want to try something like that.
I would very much look forward to seeing that. Like, there's nothing better than visual art, especially in that form.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, look, Ritesh, we've done 55 minutes or so. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate what you're doing for the community. I hope that you can gain more, people joining your courses, because you're adding value, which is the main thing. You're not doing this just for selfish reasons. You're doing it because you obviously want to grow the communities and get people to learn more, because there's sometimes in certain areas there's limited ways of learning. Sometimes people just feel like you've got to learn it on the job. I think that's not true. There are external courses like this which are really benefiting you, and if you really want to learn and grow, then do something, join up and start augmented startups with Ritesh. That'd be a good idea. But look, just before I let you go, I like to ask this question with all my guests. So Ritesh, you're stranded on a deserted island. What are the 3 things you bring with you?
Put me on the spot here. If I could probably have a satellite phone to phone for help. 3 is a backup supply of food so that I could sustain myself while trying to find other sustainable sources of food and nourishment and stuff like that. And then the 3rd thing would be a knife that could also start a fire. It will probably have a flint on the other side where you can create fire, so you could probably heat up food. I think those are the necessities.
I was about to say, you got the necessities. I asked this question with some of my previous guests, and they all say, can we get Wi-Fi? I don't think you can get... It's a deserted island, but your way is getting out as quickly as possible. Satellite phone, of course, definitely.
I think I watched a lot of survival episodes. So I probably learned from there.
Bear Grylls is one I watch a lot, who's pretty good as well. So
Bear Grylls, the Robinson Crusoe movie. There was also Survivor, the Survivor Australia, Survivor UK. Yeah, those are the things.
Yeah, cool. Ritesh, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Reese.
And look, you've got so much happening. We'll probably do this again in the future.
Definitely.
All right.
Thanks a lot for hosting me, Reese. See you soon.
That's all right. No problem. Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.